Hi! So this is my third Paladins Champion Concept video, and in case you haven't seen one of the first two, then you can watch them if you want. But it isn't necessary for this, obviously. There's a new thing for this video. I have something to show you, like how the champion or the character is supposed to look. I have a little more than the last time. But it's nothing too special, but it's still more than the last time. I'll start with his name and title, then I'll go to like affiliation, race and that stuff, then his role, HP and base movement speed, then I'll go into his background story and personality, and then I'll get to the abilities. So yeah, just a little overview what I'm going to show you in this video, like abilities, talents and loader cards. But yeah, let's start with the name and the title. Should be already in the video title. So yeah, his name is Ress, R-E-S-S, and his title is the Abyssal Ska'drin. I've had this name in my head for so long, so I just kept it. But yeah, so his affiliation is, as his title already like suggests, he's affiliation Abyss. His race is Ska'drin and Abyssal creature, and his direction is neutral. He's in no group and his initial home place is unknown, but now he lives in the Abyss. His role is frontline. He's a frontline champion, and I try to make this champion an on-point tank because we haven't had a proper on-point tank for such a long time. And one thing I can tell you right now, I mean, you're going to hear it in a couple of minutes anyway, he's a champion with a shield again. Last champion with a shield we had was, I believe, Khan in 2018 or something like that. But yeah, so his role is frontline, as I said, and he has a base HP of 4.2k. And has a base movement speed of 350. This is the same as, for example, Inara, Fernando or Khan. So I'll get a bit into his background story, personality kind of stuff. So if you don't care for that, just skip to the time shown on your screen right now. Then you will get to the abilities, talents and loader cards. But for the people who care, I'll start with his background story and that stuff. That kind of stuff a bit. So initially I had the idea of making these little Twitter teasers, like the original Paladins game Twitter account also always does when there's a new champion about to be released. They give us these little teasers on Twitter, which with some loaded card art and some text to like tease the champion to us a bit. I also have made some of these, but I wasn't confident enough to post these. But I think I can show you this one thing I made. Doesn't look crazy or anything, the hand looks very scuffed. But there's one thing, because the caption of this would have been something like... I did not write it down for some reason, but it would have been something like, when I wander the realm, everybody discriminates and harasses me, but when I rise from the abyss, everyone runs and seeks for help. So this is something he could say, or he said, we don't know. But so if in case you don't know anything about like Ska'drin and Paladins, like Talos or Vatu, for example, are Ska'drin, where these two are Ska'drin where you can actually see it because they have these horns and the tail at the back, and Ska'drin get discriminated in the realm because they are like not humans. I don't know what reason. I mean, there's never a logical reason to something like this, but they get harassed and they're discriminated, you know. And that's what this little sentence means. When he walks normally around like looking like a Ska'drin, gets harassed, but when he rises from the abyss, he is an abyssal creature, still a Ska'drin, but he's an abyssal creature, and the humans, fear the abyss, and then they run. And that's the problem Riz has with humans, or like these kind of people, because they act strong against someone who is weaker to them. Like at least what they think. Like humans think Ska'drin are weaker and they act strong against them. But when there is someone who's actually stronger, they run and they don't act strong anymore. And Riz basically wants to make people pay for that. Like humans are also like, it's their fault that Riz got corrupted by the Abyss, or like fell into the Abyss. I don't know how to call this, but humans are also, it's also the fault of the humans. So he wants to make the people pay for like how they act, and yeah, that they think that they are stronger. Riz does not really want justice for other Ska'drin. Like he doesn't really care for others. He just wants to people like to make the people pay for how they behave. I have some like champion interactions written down, like spawn chatter things. There are spawn chatter voice lines, but they don't happen because there's no like such mechanic in game. But they still do these spawn chatter voice lines for every new champion. So I've made some. It shows a bit of his personality, I believe. So if you want to read them, it shows a bit more of him. So let's get into his weapons, abilities, talents, and lore cards. His weapon on the left mouse button is called Abyssal sword. Very creative name, I know. No, I didn't find any good name, so I just took this Ska'drin Abyss. Yeah. Description, or what the sword is basically: wield your sword to hit and deal 550 damage to enemies up to 25 units in front of you, and shoot a large and slow traveling projectile which pierces through enemies and deals 400 damage every 1.2 seconds. Has an ammo count of 6 and no damage fall off. So for this weapon you can imagine a combination of Terminus X and Sin's sword. So you swing your sword like Terminus X, and while you swing your sword, you also shoot a large and slow traveling projectile, which pierces through enemies. Means if there's an enemy closer than 25 units to you, you press left click, this enemy gets the 550 damage from the sword itself, and then while you swing the sword, you also shoot this projectile, which pierces through the enemy, means he get extra damage of 400, and then this projectile continues to fly through the air and can hit other people or like other enemies. Okay, now onto his alternate fire on the right mouse button, which is called Soul Eater Shield. In case I haven't shown any picture of like Riz with his shield, I always drew it a bit small for some reason, but it's not that small, you know. It's actually like huge. It's a shield, you can hide behind it, and this is exactly what happens with this ability. The description is: hide behind your shield and reduce the damage you take by 60% from frontal attacks. It also reduces your movement speed by 80%. Steal your enemy's HP in a cone shape form in front of your Soul Eater shield. It deals 150 damage every 0.3 seconds. Heal for 80% of the stolen HP. Can hit multiple targets at once and can be cancelled early. Has a cooldown of 8 seconds. The cooldown starts as soon as the ability ended, and this ability has a max duration of 6.5 seconds. So this is the first defensive ability of this champ, and I think it explains itself. Yeah, it's just the first defensive ability. While you have Soul Eater Shield activated, like you can't use your normal attacks, but yeah. Riz's first ability on the Q button is called Death Shield, and for this doesn't have a proper description here, but I'll still read it. Cause of visualization purposes or imagination purposes. Deploy a shield which you create from with your left arm. The shield is flat and has a bit of a lower height than Inara's impasse wall, but is slightly wider. The shield has a cooldown of 12 seconds, starts as soon as the ability ended, and 4750 HP and the duration of 8 seconds. So the shield has a long duration, like 2 seconds longer than, for example, I believe Barrick and Ash, and it has a cooldown a bit lower, I believe. Has more HP at base, but I'll get to that later. So for your imagination, the shield, like the mechanic, how you like deploy it, is the same as Inara's wall. Like hold down Q and then you have a little indicator where you shield will come up. Like Inara has like that indicator where a wall comes up. So imagine holding down Q, you see something similar, and you can like deploy the shield everywhere as long as it is in the deploy range, which is, I don't know, like this roughly the same as Inara's deploying range. You know, it's the same as it works the same as Inara's wall, but it is a shield, not a wall. It's basically like a swing with your left arm and hand, like from a swing from the left to the right side of the screen, because like the position where your hand is, the shield also comes up, so it spawns from left to right. I have made this little animation because I wanted to visualize it, and yeah, I think it shows it shows what I mean. Now onto his second ability on the F button, which is called Frightening Anchor. Throw out a projection of your Abyssal sword, which travels slowly through the air. When it hits a wall, floor, ceiling or any other deployable, you can reactivate the ability to slowly teleport to the projection of your sword. Enemies in a 50 unit radius around the sword are feared for 1.5 seconds. After you teleported to the projection, are feared for 1.5 seconds after teleporting to your projection. If your projection hits the skybox or any other map area, the cooldown will automatically start and you cannot teleport to it. It has a cooldown of 14 seconds and it starts as soon as the ability is reactivated. So for this ability you have to imagine imagine Tiberius' sword. You know, his heavy blade, you press right click and it flies, not forever, but it flies forever until it hits a wall or anything. And if you reactivate it, the sword comes back or explodes. Depends on what talent you have picked. But it's the same with Riz ability, like the Frightening Anchor ability. He also throws out a projection of his sword, not the sword itself, and it flies like Tiberius' sword. The only difference is that Riz's projections travels a lot slower. Like Tiberius travels really fast. Like you throw it and it's basically in any wall after like 0.5 seconds, but Riz's projection travels very slow. Like it takes a lot more time to travel and hit anything, no? And then if it hit a wall, it will stay there forever until you reactivate it. Like there's no duration or maximum duration or timer like with, I don't know, Corvus TP, which is also similar but not quite. So it stays there. Then when you reactivate the ability, when you press F, you slowly teleport to your projection and like fear enemies in a 50 unit radius for 1.5 seconds. You slowly teleport to it, and what do I mean by slowly? It happens slowly. It is not like you have Corvus TP out and press F that you're instantly there, or EV blink, it doesn't matter, like they're all instant. You press a button and you're there, but for Riz TP, when you press F, when you reactivate the ability, it takes some time, and the best way to like show you what I mean is going to like Overwatch, looking at Reaper. You have this little indicator and then you press left click and it takes you some time to teleport to that point. Like, I don't know, how long is this? 1 second, 1.5 seconds? It takes you some time. And this is what I mean when I say it teleports you slowly. If you reactivate the ability, press the button again, it takes you like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 seconds to actually get you to that point. And once you fully finish teleporting, the fear will happen, so that you can instantly move and shoot again. And now onto his ultimate on the E button, which is called Soul Ripper. The description is: stand still and hold your Soul Eater shield into the air and transform it to the Soul Ripper shield. You now can't move but can be attacked. Create a 180 unit radius area in which enemies lose 80% of the maximum HP over the entire 10 seconds duration of this ultimate. Riz heals for 50% of the dealt damage, and Soul Ripper allows him to create overhealth up to a maximum of 5000 HP. This overhealth cannot be healed in any way. Again, if you can imagine this, I need to go to another game, to a different game to show you what I mean. In Valorant there's this ultimate called Lockdown, and this is, at least from what it is supposed to look like, more or less the same. There you can basically place down this thing which creates this dome, this area, and it's the same for Riz. Difference is Riz does not place down anything which creates this radius, he is the radius, like he's the center of the radius. So when you press E, he is the center of this radius, can't move anymore, and has his shield up into the air. He creates this radius, the storm, in which enemies lose 80% of the maximum HP over the entire 10 seconds of this ability, of this ultimate. So if there's an enemy in there for only 5 seconds, they only lose 40% of the max HP. So it matters how long you are in there. Riz heals for 15% of the dealt damage and can create overhealth up to a max of 5k HP. And these 800 overhealth cannot heal in any way, which means life rip won't work on these overhealth HP. No life rip, no kill to heal, no loaded card heal, no support from a team can heal you, basically nothing can heal you. So when you're back to your normal max HP, 4.2k, you can be healed again. This is for Riz's base kit. Some of these ideas have taken a lot of time to actually get into the proper ability, because I started to working on this in last year of March, or like working is a bit too much, but I had the idea and then I made a lot of things and it just took some time to actually get something finished. Yeah, I've worked on this for a long time, but I've worked on other champion concepts in the meantime, so yeah. But it generally took me a long time to finish this concept. Okay, now onto his talents. His first talent, which you unlock at master level 0, is called More Power. And what it does is, your Soul Eater shield is now also able to create overhealth for you to a maximum of 4500 HP. It uses the exact same damage and heal numbers for this as for the normal ability. So you can also create overhealth, but only 300 instead of 800 as the ultimate can. And these 300 overhealth are generated with the exact same numbers as for the normal Soul Eater shield ability, which means you heal for 80% of the 150 damage this ability deals, and when you're max HP and use your Soul Eater shield, you heal or create overhealth with that 80% which you would heal from the 150 damage, except it creates the overhealth with these damage numbers or heal numbers. His second talent, which you unlock at Master level 2 I believe, is called Melt Away. And this is the reason why I was so specific with create a shield from the left arm. Because I'll read the description and then I'll explain it a bit. Change your death shield to a firewall which has no HP, but you can also not look through it. Allies and you shooting through the firewall adds a burning damage over time effect to the shots when hitting an enemy. This fire deals 400 damage over 2 seconds. Enemies cannot shoot through this wall, but the duration is decreased to 6 seconds. So this version of the shield or wall, like it's more like a wall, was normal ability at first, because it like basically was this, like lore wise, Riz can't create a shield, but this firewall, like lore wise, so I don't know. But I thought this is stronger than his normal shield, but I wanted to have the normal shield in the base kit because I wanted to have like a proper normal shield which is affected by Wrecker again. I think this talent explains itself. The reason why it's like a firewall is Riz has this little like brand fire marks or whatever on his left arm. It's like red, the fire-ish, he can create fire with this arm, like red fire-ish brand fire marks. I don't know how you would call these, but like he basically sets his arm on fire. Yeah, you just set your wrist sets his left arm on fire in a certain way, and then it glows and is on fire, and then he does this swing from the left to the right side of the screen, and then this firewall comes up. Let's move on to his third talent, which you unlock at Champion Mastery level 8, which is called Fierce Traveling. The description is: getting a killing blow after at least 5 seconds after teleporting to your frightening anchor reduces its cooldown by 100%. Teleporting to your frightening anchor now also deals 500 damage to every enemy in its sphere radius. So the sphere radius are the 50 units from the normal ability where you teleport to the frightening anchor. So playing this talent and teleporting to your frightening anchor now also deals 500 damage to people in the sphere radius, so everyone who's feared also gets 500 damage. And now let's move on to his loadout cards. Let's start with the loadout cards for armor and weapon. The first card is reduce your active cooldowns by 8% after getting the elimination. Like first level it starts with 8% and it scales with 8% per level. The second card would be receive 5% increased healing from other players while being at or below 50% HP. And the third card would be hitting an enemy with both your sword hit and the projectile it shoots now slows the enemy by 50% at base and 5% scaling for 2.5 seconds. So on level 1 this card slows for 15% and it scales with 5% per level, getting it up to a max of 35%. And now onto his last card of the set, increase the reload speed by 5% at base and scales with 5%. And now onto his lower cards for his Soul Eater Shield. First card would be reduce the movement speed penalty of Soul Eater Shield by 10% at base and 5% scaling. Reduce the cooldown of Soul Eater Shield by 0.4 seconds. Generate 1 ammo after activating Soul Eater Shield. And the last card for the set would be increase the healing you receive while Soul Eater Shield is active by 4%. Next up are his cards for his Death Shield. And the first card would be reduce cooldown of Death Shield by 0.4 seconds. Increase your own and your allies' movement speed by 7% for 5 seconds after passing through your Death Shield. The third card would be increase your Death Shield's HP by 200. And the last card of this set would be heal for 40 HP every 1 second while Death Shield is active. And now onto his last set of cards for his Frightening Anchor. Your first card would be increase your movement speed by 8% after teleporting to your Frightening Anchor. Gain 5% damage reduction for 3 seconds after teleporting to your Frightening Anchor. Heal for 150 HP after teleporting to your Frightening Anchor. And reduce the cooldown of Frightening Anchor by 0.9 seconds. So, this is it. This covers all of Riss talents, abilities, little cards, and the bit of background story. So this is it for this video. If you like this video, you can go watch my other Champion Concept videos if you want. But yeah, anyways, thanks for watching.